A very lovely day to you, brothers and sisters. As I made my way to the National Museum of my dear country, Nigeria, for the first time, being a part educator in the tech space, I remembered how it was usually a challenge for most students of this generation to engage robustly in any historically inclined topic or subject. To begin the process of killing off their "oh man, history is boring" attitude, one would first start by making them realize that to effectively judge the present, one will need to journey to the past in order to notice patterns and connect them to the present, which can help predict or salvage the future. Specifically in tech, those that struggled will lighten up when I paint a scenario of how they would feel if they invented something so useful to many and none of the users cared about the time, energy, and process it took you to create it. This, along with audiovisually engaging presentations and deep thinking discussions, made it possible for many to enjoy these historical classes. I was hoping a little to experience the same because, honestly speaking, I struggle a bit with history myself. Indeed, I was amazed at the experience I had. I didn't even plan to do any recording, but thanks to these amazing attendants who willfully volunteered to take me around a thoroughly engaging tour of the National Museum. Voila, I'm doing it, man. Since I wasn't even looking forward to any recording, my very low battery went flat after this first recording, but she helped me get it charged while taking me round the others as it got much more interesting. Please permit my unplanned, unprofessional video recordings, but I believe very important lessons will be learned from this precise presentation. Here, she was informing me of the very first sculpture that caught my eyes. Yeah, I greet you, ma. It's so good to have you and to see you. Please, ma, I would like to know your name.
Daniel.
Okay. Please, what's your role, ma, in the museum? Okay, it's so good to have you, ma. We have a very interesting piece here. Really interesting, okay? And ma, please, I would like you to let us know this artwork, when was it created actually?
18th century, around 1880.
Goodness, 1880, just 18 after the death of Christ, just 18 years, I believe. Goodness, and it's still so fresh and awesome like this. Goodness. So, ma, can you just tell us a bit what it represents? Like, I'm seeing something on the artwork's head.
The bones head this time, showing us how the Gaba works, how they do.
Okay.
This is from Kogi State.
From Kogi? Wow. Interesting. Okay, I can even see some info here on it being a bronze standing figure. Interesting. Wow. As early as 1880, this kind of creativity existed in Nigeria. Interesting. Thank you so much, ma. The rest of the video takes you through the Nigerian art in the cycle of life, starting with the relics, artworks, and other materials that dominated the pre-colonial times to the very ones that were introduced during the times of our colonial masters. Let's begin. This cycle begins with the first stage called fertility and birth, which shows interesting artifacts, pictures, instruments, and regalias used in ancient Nigerian states to attend to the processes and challenges of prenatal childbirth and postnatal period. The next stage is the initiation stage, which shows instruments, materials, pictures, and artifacts that explains the ancient processes taken by some of our state cultures in selecting, thoroughly preparing, and training wives to be for their husbands. I found this very fascinating artifact so striking, which passed the deep message that for a man to claim he is ready for marriage, he must be prepared for responsibilities in terms of taking care of his wife and children. My mind immediately flashed to the heavy tourist attracting mega Africa Renaissance monument sculpture of Senegal. Ha! If only our heavily talented sculptors could be developed to create large monumental versions of this artifact that are enterable, similar to Senegal's own, amongst others, how impacting will it be on our economy? Next up is the spiritually toned pre-colonial stage of wisdom and learning. It was amazing to notice that the same principles of consulting higher powers and principalities for wisdom and direction as to the right choice and path for a successful career and life were also adopted, and tools and artifacts and regalia for these were displayed here. The next stage was adult life, and it was no surprise to see that the size of the then hut-like houses of the Easterners was relatively larger and more spacious than those in the North and the South. This stage showed how people advanced in their careers, showcasing tools for their vocations, the kind of materials their buildings were made up of to show aggregated affluence, and of course, tools they use to balance work with play. After adult stage was the death, burial, and funeral stage, which showed interesting artifacts of then gods that signified death, and relics used to bury notable figures like kings. It was so cool to see the amazing artifacts like the well-crafted elephant tusks that were created to signify the happenings of a king during his lifetime of reign. This reminded me of similar practices in ancient Egypt and showed how the system of a present government, learning from the archives of a departing government, were so coolly adopted then. Kai. And the next highly spiritual stage was the reincarnation stage that showed the kinds of then worshipped gods that were used to conjure spirits of the dead. There were some really crazy looking ones. For example, does this one not remind you of the popular Thank God for Jesus? I mean, even look at some of these ones that look like aliens. I believe Hollywood movies have tapped inspiration from these artifacts to create their movies. Almost a chest. Thank God for Jesus once again, Jare. No be by power. And the final stage of this interesting cycle is the external influence stage, which shows the interesting artifacts created to denote the attires, materials, relics, tools, and all whatnot that was introduced by our colonial masters. Hallelujah. Of course, I made my way to the spots that showed government rule from pre-colonial times to the military regime times and to our current democratic times. Also viewing the very popular vehicle where, unfortunately, late General Murtala Muhammad was assassinated. But overall, it was so incredible to see the wonderful piece of artwork, artistry of our ancestors and how it has kept improving from one generation to the next. I would like to end by highlighting some really important reflections I came out with after taking the tour. One was that it was very clear that we are still scratching the surface in tapping into the tourist capabilities we have as a country. Just like I highlighted earlier on how one of the artifacts could easily become a monumental masterpiece to attract heavy tourists from far and wide. Secondly, I believe the creative abilities of our sculptors and creators can be more reflected in the architectural buildings we have in our country. There should even be several places in our dear country where the creative brilliance of our heavily talented people can be reflected in buildings, like estates made up of very artistic looking houses. This can also serve as a major tourist attraction and cool income in terms of real estate. It's just a matter of standardizing your unique local creativity. If you are a nation builder, whether in government or not, there is so much work to be done in harnessing and maximally utilizing the incredible talents we have been blessed with as Nigerians, whether in your little or massive way. And finally, I concluded that history is not boring at all. It just depends on how it is presented. If you have not gone to the museum, I would advise you do so. And when you do, consider taking a tour guide with you. It can make the experience far more interesting and engaging than if you just go on your own. So thank you very much for seeing this video through to the end. I believe you've gotten insightful lessons from journeying with me through the process. And of course, I expect you to go visit if you haven't. God bless you.